I used to think there was nothing pure in life than the kind of friendship you find when you're young. The kind that grows slowly, but surely, the kind where one person just gets you without you having to explain yourself. That was what I had with Lily. From the moment she walked into our 8th grade English class, with her hair in a messy bun and a faded denim jacket covered in random patches, I knew she wasn't like everyone else. She didn't care about impressing people, and she certainly didn't care about fitting into the popular group. She smiled like she was in on a secret no one else knew, and that made people curious about her. I was the quiet girl back then, the one who sat in the back, who doodled in her notebook when she should have been paying attention. People knew me, but no one really knew me. My life outside school wasn't something I wanted anyone to see. And maybe that's why I gravitated toward Lily. She didn't push. She didn't ask me to be anyone other than who I already was. Our friendship started small. She sat next to me one day, made a sarcastic comment about the teacher's obsession with Shakespeare, and we both burst out laughing. That was it. One laugh, one moment, and suddenly she was sitting next to me every day. By freshman year, we were inseparable. We had sleepovers every weekend, shared clothes, and talked about everything from crushes to our biggest fears. She was the only person who knew my mom sometimes forgot to pay the electricity bill, that my dad hadn't called me in over 3 years, and that sometimes I skipped lunch because the money in my wallet had to last until payday. And I knew her secrets too, like how her perfect older sister wasn't as perfect as everyone thought, how her dad's business trips were actually just excuses to escape her mom, and how sometimes Lily felt like she was disappearing in her own house. We made a promise early on. No matter what, we'd always have each other's backs. We even pinky swore on it. At the time, I thought it was just one of those silly friendship promises you make as a kid. I didn't realize how much I'd end up needing it. By the time we were juniors, our lives were more intertwined than ever. We joined the same clubs, took the same electives, and even worked at the same part-time job at a little coffee shop downtown. People joke that you couldn't see one of us without the other. But there's something no one ever tells you about friendships, especially ones that start young and burn so bright. Sometimes, without you noticing, they start to shift. It was little things at first. She'd make fun of me in front of other people, but in that "I'm just kidding" kind of way that made me feel like I couldn't say anything without looking too sensitive. Or she'd forget to invite me to hang out with a new group she'd met, then post pictures online later. I told myself it didn't matter, we were still best friends. She still told me everything. I still told her everything. And maybe that was my mistake, telling her everything. Because when the thing happened, the one thing that could ruin me if it got out, Lily was the first person I told. Not because I didn't have anyone else, but because I truly believed she was the safest place for my secrets. It was one of those stormy Friday nights in March, the kind where the wind howled against my window and the rain made everything feel heavier. My mom was out working late, and I was sitting cross-legged on my bed with my laptop open, staring at something I shouldn't have been looking at. The thing is, I'd made a mistake. A huge one. Something that, if people found out, would completely destroy my reputation, my relationships, maybe even my future. I won't say what it was yet. All I'll say is that it was personal, private, and something I'd never planned for anyone to see. But when it happened, when I realized what I'd done and how it could all blow up, the first number I called was Lily's. She didn't even hesitate. She came over within 20 minutes, still in her hoodie and pajama pants, holding a bag of hot fries and a soda like we were about to watch a movie instead of talk about the worst mistake I'd ever made. She listened. She didn't judge. She told me it was going to be fine, that she'd help me figure it out. And when I cried, she hugged me so tight I thought I'd break. In that moment, I felt like I'd made the right choice. That telling her had been the smartest thing I could have done. But here's the thing about people. You can know someone for years, think you've memorized every corner of who they are, and still never see it coming when they turn on you. I didn't know it yet, but that night, the night I handed Lily my deepest secret, was the beginning of the end. For the next week after I told Lily my secret, everything felt normal. Almost too normal. She came over like usual. We sat in the corner booth at lunch. We texted until late at night. If she was acting different, I didn't notice. In fact, I felt lighter than I had in months. It was like finally letting someone else carry part of the weight had given me permission to breathe again. I trusted her completely. But then the little things started happening. It began with whispers. Not from Lily, at least not directly, but from other people at school. I'd walk into the hallway and notice conversations stopping, glances being exchanged, a couple of people smirking when I passed. I told myself I was imagining it, but it didn't stop. One afternoon, I was in the library when I overheard two girls from my chemistry class talking. "Did you hear about her?" One of them whispered. "Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's true, but Lily said." I froze. I didn't even stay to hear the rest. My stomach was in knots. "Lily?" Lily said. I tried to shake it off. Maybe it wasn't my Lily. Maybe it was just a coincidence. People mishear things all the time, right? But deep down, I knew. I confronted her the next day, casually at first. "Hey, weird question," I said as we were walking home. "You didn't tell anyone what I told you last week, right?" Her eyes widened just enough for me to notice. Then she laughed, like I'd said something ridiculous. "Of course not. I told you, your secret's safe with me." She said it with such confidence that I almost believed her. Almost. The problem was, Lily wasn't the kind of person who slipped up accidentally. If she wanted something out there, she knew exactly how to plan it so it wouldn't lead back to her. I'd seen her do it with other people, passing along just enough information for it to spread like wildfire without ever lighting the match herself. And suddenly, I started wondering, how many people already knew? The following week was hell. The stares got worse. I noticed people scrolling through their phones when I walked by, then looking up at me with these smug little smiles. Then came the Instagram post. It wasn't anything obvious, just a black and white quote graphic that said, "Some people aren't who you think they are. And sometimes, their perfect little image is just a lie waiting to be exposed." She didn't tag me. She didn't have to. The caption was a single lock emoji. The comments section filled up fast. "Spill. Wait, who? I think I know who this is about, LOL." And then, someone tagged me. I remember staring at my phone, my pulse in my ears. She could deny it all she wanted, but we both knew exactly what she was doing. She was turning my secret into a guessing game for the entire school. I texted her immediately. "Me? Seriously? What was that post supposed to mean?" "Lily, chill. It wasn't about you." "Me? Then why is everyone tagging me?" "Lily, I can't control what people think. You're being paranoid." Paranoid. That word stuck in my head all night. Still, I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe my best friend wouldn't do something so cruel. So I gave her the benefit of the doubt again. But then, it happened. The thing that ripped away any chance of pretending this wasn't her doing. It was a Thursday afternoon, and I was in the locker room after gym class when my phone buzzed. It was a notification from a group chat I wasn't in, a screenshot someone had forwarded to me. It was a cropped photo. My photo. The one I told Lily about. The one that was my secret. It wasn't the whole thing, just enough to make it obvious what it was. And underneath it was a message. "Ever wonder what your innocent classmates are really up to?" My hands went cold. I knew that picture had only ever been on my phone. The only person I'd shown it to was Lily. Which meant there was no doubt anymore. She had shared it. And not just with one person. With a whole group chat full of people who were now laughing about it, spreading it, twisting it into whatever story they wanted. I felt like I couldn't breathe. My face burned with humiliation. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely type. I didn't text her this time. I didn't want to see her lie to me again. Instead, I left the locker room without saying a word to anyone, walked straight out the side doors, and didn't stop until I was sitting on the swings at the empty park 2 blocks from school. It was cold. The wind made my eyes water, but I couldn't tell if it was that or the tears I'd been holding back. I kept replaying everything in my head, every laugh, every late night talk, every moment I told myself she was different from everyone else. And then, just when I thought I couldn't feel more broken, my phone lit up with a text from her. "Lily, we need to talk." I stared at it for a long time before finally typing back. Me. There's nothing to talk about. I know what you did. She read it. And for once, she didn't reply right away. That was when I realized something. She wasn't sorry. She didn't feel guilty. If anything, she was probably figuring out how to spin it so she didn't look like the bad guy. And knowing Lily, she was going to make sure everyone believed her version before I even got the chance to tell mine. By Friday morning, it wasn't just whispers anymore. It was open, obvious, and everywhere. When I walked into school, I could feel the stares. People didn't bother hiding them anymore. Some looked at me with pity, others with judgment, and a few with that gleeful kind of curiosity people get when they smell drama that isn't theirs. It was like my life had been turned into a show, and everyone had front row seats. I went straight to my locker, keeping my head down, pretending I couldn't hear the laughter coming from a group of juniors a few feet away. But then I saw it, taped right to my locker door, a piece of paper with a printed out screenshot of that photo. It was blurry and cropped, but I knew exactly what it was. And so did anyone who'd seen the group chat. My hands were shaking as I ripped it down, crumpling it into a ball. My throat burned, my face hot with humiliation. That was when I heard her voice. Wow. Guess you found your fan mail. I turned, and there she was. Lily. Leaning against the lockers like she didn't have a care in the world, a smirk tugging at the corner of her mouth. You think this is funny? I asked, my voice low, my heart pounding in my ears. She tilted her head, her eyes sparkling in that way that used to make me laugh, but now made my skin crawl. I don't know what you're talking about. But maybe you should be more careful about what you share with people. You never know who might misunderstand. It was deliberate. Every word. She was letting me know that she was in control, that she could ruin me completely if she wanted to, and maybe she already had. I wanted to scream at her right there in the hallway, but what good would it have done? She'd just twist it, make it look like I was the unstable one. So I walked away. But the thing about walking away is that it doesn't make the fire go out. It just gives it more room to spread. By lunch, the entire school seemed to know. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing with messages I didn't want to read. A few people even asked me outright if the rumors were true. And then came the part I wasn't prepared for. Lily's version of the story. She didn't just spread my secret. She rewrote it. Apparently, in her version, she had been trying to help me. She told people she'd only shared the picture because she was worried about me, that she thought I needed an intervention before things got worse. It was genius in the most twisted way. She wasn't admitting to betrayal. She was painting herself as the caring best friend who just went about it the wrong way. And people believed her. By the end of the day, I'd lost 3 of my closest friends because they'd heard things from Lily and didn't want to get dragged into drama. Drama. That's what they called it. As if my humiliation, my trust being shattered, my privacy being violated was just some juicy subplot in the never-ending soap opera of high school. I barely made it through the rest of the day. I skipped last period and hid in the bathroom until the final bell. When I finally left the building, I thought maybe, just maybe, I'd get a break from it all. But as soon as I stepped outside, I saw her again. She was standing by the bike racks with a group of girls, laughing like she didn't have a care in the world. Our eyes met for a split second, and she smiled, not the smile of a friend, but the smile of someone who had won. And that was the moment something in me changed. Up until then, I'd been in survival mode. I'd been trying to hold myself together, to keep my head down, to wait for it all to blow over. But looking at her, I realized something important. This wasn't going to blow over. Not if she could help it. Lily wasn't just content with breaking my trust. She wanted to break me. And if I didn't do something soon, she'd succeed. That night, I sat on my bed staring at my phone, my fingers hovering over the screen. I thought about texting her, about confronting her one last time. But what would that do? She'd just deny it again, maybe even use my words against me. Then I thought about posting my side of the story, about putting the truth out there for everyone to see. But the truth was messy, complicated, and easily twisted. And Lily was a master at twisting things. The only thing I knew for sure was that I couldn't just sit there and let her keep doing this. That's when the idea came to me, not fully formed, Not even close to a plan, but the spark of something. If Lily could play dirty, so could I. I didn't want revenge just for the sake of it. I wanted her to feel what I felt, the helplessness, the humiliation, the moment where the ground drops out from under you and you realize the person you trusted most was never really on your side. But I also knew one thing. If I was going to do this, I had to be smart. I had to be patient. And I had to make sure that when her world came crashing down, there would be no doubt that she'd done it to herself. Because this wasn't just about getting even anymore. It was about taking back my power. The weekend felt like an eternity. I barely left my room, barely touched my phone. Every time I opened an app, I saw her name, her posts, her little comments disguised as vague advice but aimed directly at me. It was suffocating. But the more I sat there, replaying every moment of our friendship, the clearer my mind became. I started to see patterns, the way she'd confide in me about other people just to see how I'd react, how she'd drop hints to stir up drama, but never be the one holding the match. This wasn't something new. This was who she'd always been. I'd just been too blind, or maybe too loyal, to see it. By Sunday night, I had a plan. It started with something simple: silence. I stopped texting her, stopped reacting to her posts, stopped giving her anything she could use. I didn't block her. No, that would have been too obvious. I wanted her to wonder what I was doing. If there's one thing I knew about Lily, it's that she hated not being in control of a narrative. If she couldn't predict my moves, it would drive her crazy. Step 2 was information. I still had every message she'd ever sent me, screenshots of things she'd said about other people, little admissions that seemed harmless on their own but painted a very different picture when put together. I also had something else, a secret of hers. It wasn't as explosive as the one she'd used against me, but it was damaging enough. Something she'd told me last year, swearing me to secrecy, about the night she'd hooked up with someone she wasn't supposed to, someone who could get into serious trouble if it ever came out. I didn't want to use it. Not yet. But just knowing I had it gave me a strange sense of power. Step 3 was allies. Lily was good at turning people against someone, but she wasn't invincible. There were cracks in her empire, people she'd wronged, friendships she'd let die the second they weren't useful to her. I started reaching out to them quietly. Not about my situation, not yet, but just checking in, asking about school, about work, about life. And sure enough, they started bringing her up on their own. She's been acting weird lately. One girl from the coffee shop told me, like she's always fishing for gossip. Yeah, another classmate said, she told me something about someone, but now I'm wondering if it was even true. It was small, but it was a start. Seeds planted. By Monday morning, I was ready to test the waters. When I walked into school, I didn't avoid her like I had the week before. I didn't hide in the bathroom or keep my head down. Instead, I smiled. Not a big, fake grin, just enough to look calm, unbothered. And I made sure she saw it. Her eyes narrowed just slightly, like she was trying to figure me out. Hey, she said when we crossed paths in the hallway, her tone dripping with fake sweetness. Haven't heard from you all weekend. Everything okay? Perfect, I said simply and kept walking. It was such a small thing, but I could feel her bristling behind me. By lunchtime, the whispers had shifted. Not much, but enough for me to notice. Someone must have told her about the people I'd been talking to because she was suddenly making the rounds, inserting herself into conversations, laughing too loud, asking too many questions. Good. She was rattled. That afternoon, I put step 4 into motion. I created a new Instagram account, anonymous, but designed to look like one of those pages that posted about school gossip. I didn't follow anyone at first. I just let it sit for a day, then started following people I knew would follow back. Within hours, my follower count was climbing. And that's when I dropped the first post, a vague one, the kind that could be about anyone. Funny how the loudest people in the room are usually the ones with the most to hide. I didn't tag anyone. I didn't need to. The next day, I posted another. This time, a blurry photo of a bracelet I knew Lily wore all the time. The caption, "Wonder what she'd do if this little secret came out." It wasn't even a real threat, just bait. By the time lunch rolled around, people were talking. I could hear them. Did you see that post? Do you think it's about her? And Lily? She was fuming. I could see it in the way she kept checking her phone, the tightness in her smile when people approached her. That night, I got a DM on my main account. Lily, I know it's you. Me. What's me? Lily. That stupid gossip page. Me. Why would I waste my time on something like that? She didn't respond, but I could tell I'd hit a nerve. Over the next few days, I kept feeding the page with just enough to keep people guessing. Little hints, vague stories that could be about anyone, but always with a tone that pointed in her direction. And it worked. People started coming to me with things they'd heard about her, things they'd seen. Some of it was harmless, some of it was interesting. The best part? I never even had to post most of it. Just knowing I could was enough to make her squirm. But I knew this wasn't over. Not yet. Because while I'd taken some of the power back, she still had my secret hanging over me. And as long as she had that, I'd never really be free of her. So I made a decision. It was time to end this, completely. By Friday, my plan was ready. It wasn't about humiliating her just for the sake of it, though I'd be lying if I said the thought didn't give me a little satisfaction. It was about making sure she could never twist the truth again. The school talent show was that night. Almost everyone would be there, students, parents, teachers. It was the perfect stage. I'd spent the past week quietly collecting everything I needed. Screenshots of her messages, recordings of things she'd said when she thought no one else was listening, proof that she'd been the one to leak my secret. And the final piece, the thing I knew would shatter the perfect friend image she clung to, her own secret. The one she'd sworn me to silence over. The auditorium buzzed with chatter as I sat in the third row, my phone in my hand. Lily was backstage, set to perform a song she'd been bragging about for weeks. She thought tonight was about her moment to shine. When it was her turn, she walked out in her sparkly dress, flashing that practiced smile that made everyone adore her. And for a moment, I almost felt guilty. Almost. She started singing, her voice sweet and confident. The audience swayed along. No one knew what was coming. And then, during the last verse, I hit send. A wave of phone notifications went off across the room. Heads bent, screens lit up. Confused whispers started spreading. I'd sent the link to a shared drive, one that contained every single piece of evidence I'd gathered. Screenshots of her gossiping about her so-called friends. Voice memos of her mocking people to their faces, then pretending to be their biggest supporter. And finally, the screenshots proving she leaked my secret, along with the story she tried so hard to hide about herself. By the time she finished her song, the room wasn't clapping, it was buzzing. People were looking at her, whispering, some even shaking their heads. I saw her smile falter as she walked off stage, her eyes darting around like she could feel the shift in the air. She must have checked her phone the second she got backstage, because not 5 minutes later, I felt my own buzz in my pocket. Lily. What did you do? Me. Told the truth. She didn't reply. By the end of the night, it was everywhere. The posts, the screenshots, people couldn't stop talking about it. Some defended her, saying everyone made mistakes. But most? They saw her for what she really was. On Monday, she didn't come to school. On Tuesday, she showed up but kept her head down, no entourage trailing behind her like before. By Wednesday, she wasn't even sitting in the cafeteria. She ate lunch in the library. It wasn't that I'd won. It wasn't about that. It was that the balance had shifted. She couldn't control the narrative anymore. She couldn't use my secret as a weapon, because now, everyone knew the truth about her. And me? For the first time in weeks, I could breathe. People stopped whispering when I walked by, a few even apologized for believing her lies. Not everyone. Some still kept their distance, but I didn't care. I wasn't looking for their approval anymore. One afternoon, a girl from my math class sat next to me in the cafeteria. You know, she said quietly, I used to be friends with her. She did the same thing to me. I just never had the guts to call her out. I nodded. I understood. Lily never spoke to me again, not once. And that was fine. Looking back now, I know I lost something the day I told her my secret. Not just my privacy, my trust. That kind of blind, unconditional trust you have when you think a friendship will last forever. But I also gained something. I learned that not all friendships are meant to be saved. That sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to walk away, or in my case, burn the bridge so completely there's no way back. She was my lovely friend once, my safe place, my person. And then she wasn't. And I survived anyway. It had been 3 months since Lily's downfall. 3 months since I'd walked through the school hallways without feeling like I was being dissected under a microscope. 3 months since her name had even passed my lips. Life wasn't perfect, it never would be, but it was quieter, safer. People had moved on to the next scandal, as they always did. The gossip pages were posting about other drama now, and I'd quietly shut mine down a few weeks after everything happened. I told myself I didn't need it anymore. I'd done what I needed to do, and dragging it out would only keep me tied to her. I had new friends now. Or maybe they weren't exactly new, just people who had been on the edges of my life before, waiting for me to notice them. We studied together, shared fries at lunch, talked about colleges and summer plans. For the first time in a long time, I felt normal. But then she came back. It started with a rumor that Lily was transferring schools. I didn't think much of it. It made sense. She'd burned too many bridges here. Leaving would be the smartest thing she could do. Except she didn't leave. One Monday morning in early May, I was walking toward my locker when I saw her. She looked different, smaller somehow. The confident, polished Lily I'd known was gone, replaced by someone in an oversized hoodie, her hair tied back in a messy ponytail. She didn't have a crowd around her. She didn't even meet anyone's eyes. And yet, there was still that glint, that spark in her gaze when she spotted me, like she'd just remembered something she'd been meaning to do. I kept walking. I didn't owe her anything. But by lunch, I knew avoiding her wasn't going to be an option. I was sitting with my friends when someone pulled up their phone and whispered, "Have you seen this?" It was a TikTok. Lily's face filled the screen, her eyes red and glassy, her voice trembling as she spoke into the camera. I don't know how much longer I can do this," she said. "Everyone hates me. People think I'm some kind of monster because of lies that were spread about me. I lost my friends, my reputation, everything. And I just wish the truth mattered to people." My stomach dropped. The comments section was flooded with strangers calling her brave, telling her to stay strong. Some of them were classmates, people who'd hated her months ago, now talking about how maybe she deserves a second chance. I wanted to throw my phone across the table, because I knew exactly what she was doing. She wasn't apologizing. She wasn't taking responsibility. She was flipping the script again, painting herself as the victim, and me as the villain who had destroyed her life. By seventh period, the shift was already happening. People weren't looking at me with pity anymore. They were looking at me with suspicion. That afternoon, I found a folded piece of paper in my locker. No name, no signature. Just 5 words written in messy handwriting. "Did you go too far?" I wanted to scream. That night, I couldn't sleep. My phone kept lighting up with messages, some from anonymous accounts calling me a bully, others from people I thought were on my side, asking if I really had ruined her life. I kept telling myself it didn't matter what they thought. I knew the truth. But the problem was, once Lily started telling her version of events, it didn't matter what the truth was. I should have expected this. I should have known she wouldn't just disappear quietly. But what I didn't expect was what happened 2 days later. I was at my locker again when she approached me. "Hey," she said softly. Her voice was careful, almost rehearsed. I didn't look at her. "What do you want, Lily?" She sighed. I think we need to talk about everything." "There's nothing to talk about," I said, shutting my locker. "You made your choices. I made mine." Her eyes flickered, just for a second, and I caught a glimpse of the old Lily underneath, the calculating one. "See, that's the thing," she said. "I don't think you understand how much damage you did. And I think if people knew the whole story, they might see things differently." It wasn't a threat. Not exactly. But it was close enough. I walked away before she could say anything else. But her words stuck with me the rest of the day. The whole story. What did she mean by that? That night, I found out. Around 10 p.m., my phone buzzed with a new notification, a private message from a burner account. It contained one thing. A photo. It wasn't mine. It wasn't about me at all. It was Lily. But younger. Maybe 14. And she wasn't alone. The man in the photo, I recognized him immediately. He was someone who absolutely should not have been there with her. Someone who, if that photo ever got out, would be in serious legal trouble. My stomach twisted. I didn't know where she'd gotten it or why she was sending it to me. But the implication was clear. She still had leverage. And if she was willing to drag me back into her game, she was willing to use anything to win it.